Hey, physical science classes. This is Mr. Call. I know you can't see me, but I'm here. Hi. We're going to make naming booklets today. This is going to be a tool that you'll be allowed to use on quizzes and tests. This is going to help you come up with names for ionic and covalent compounds. This is going to be part one of a booklet that will have an inside and an outside. So if you have not gotten a sheet of paper yet and folded it like so, okay, in towards the middle, just like that, then you should go pause this real quick and go get a sheet of paper, take a full sheet of paper, and fold it in to where the edges meet in the middle, just like this. We're going to focus on just the outside of the booklet today. This is for ionic compounds, okay? So what I write on mine, you should write on yours exactly. If you'd like to put a little reminder that ionic compounds are a bond between a metal and a nonmetal, you can write that on there, okay? You have to excuse my bad handwriting. I'll do my best to make this legible. The first part of making or coming up with the name for these compounds is to determine what the name of the metal is first. So we're going to write the rules on the left-hand side, and we'll put some examples on the right-hand side. Again, you should write on yours exactly what I write on mine. So for naming, here are the rules. The very first one is you're going to write the name of the metal. Write the metal name first. Okay? And that's straight from the periodic table. You don't have to change the name at all. For example, if you have the compound NaCl, we know that if there is a metal here, folks, if it's an ionic compound with a metal, the metal is listed first. Sodium on your periodic table is a metal, and so that name is going to be listed first. So we would just write, if we were going to name this one, we would write sodium exactly as you see it on the periodic table. You don't have to change the spelling or anything. That's the first rule. It's pretty easy, okay? The second rule is just a little bit trickier. You are going to look at the nonmetal now, the second element listed in that bond, and you're going to name the nonmetal but you're going to add oops, sorry, that should be with an IDE ending. So we have to change the name of the nonmetal just a little bit. Okay? If you see a couple of these, I think you'll realize that a lot of you have a chemistry ear already, and this will make sense to you. Here's the example. So with NaCl, goodness gracious, I'm struggling. Cl is our nonmetal, and that's chlorine, right? Chlorine becomes chloride. There's our IDE ending. So this will go from chlorine to chloride. And that will be how you name the nonmetal, okay? Some of them are a little tricky. For example, oxygen. If you see that in one of the bonds that you're going to be naming, oxygen becomes oxide. All right? Excuse me. So for most of these, those are the only two rules that you're going to have to apply. There's a third one that we're going to save for a different video. We're going to go through some examples real quick, and that'll be it for this very first video. All right? So here are the compounds or the molecules that we're going to name. If we have LiF, all we have to do is apply the two rules that we have at the very top. Okay? Rule number one, write the metal name first. In Li and F, lithium is our metal. And so we'll write over here, lithium, exactly as it is from the periodic table, no changes. All right? Step two, name the nonmetal, but give it that IDE ending. This is fluorine on the periodic table, all the way over, almost all the way over on the right-hand side. Fluorine becomes fluoride. Watch your spelling here, F-L-U-O-R-I-D-E. It has that IDE ending. So this, we don't have to say LiF anymore. This has a name. We call it lithium fluoride. Okay? Here's another example. If we have K2O, Rule number 1 says, figure out which one of these is the metal. Remember, if there's a metal there, it's going to be listed first. It's potassium. Exactly as the name is from the periodic table. We don't change it at all. And rule number 2 is we write the name of the nonmetal with that IDE ending. So here's oxygen, and as we saw over here, oxygen becomes oxide. So the name of this compound is potassium oxide. This is a good time to point out, notice that in this name, there's nothing that tells us anything about the number of each element in the compound. There's 2 potassiums, but that does not show up in the name, okay? That makes naming these a lot easier, but eventually we'll give you the name of a compound and you'll have to work backwards to what the formula looks like. That's another skill for another day, okay? One more example here, if we have MgBr2, we'll run it through the same 2 rules, okay? The first rule is write the name of the metal. The name of the metal, which is this one right here, is magnesium. Just like from the periodic table, no changes whatsoever. And then we take a look at rule number 2. We need to find the nonmetal and give it that IDE ending. This is bromine, B-R-O-M-I-N-E, but we need to give it that IDE ending. So bromine becomes bromide. The whole nonmetal IDE ending is going to take a little bit of practice. Some of them are a little tricky, like phosphorus becomes phosphide instead of phosphoride, and we'll work on those. We'll practice those so that they'll start to make sense to you. This is it for the first part, ionic compounds, rule number 1 and rule number 2. There's a worksheet that we handed out to you. Only do the problems that are circled first. The ones that are not circled need this rule that we haven't written down here yet. That's another video for another day. Please apply rule number 1 and rule number 2 to the worksheet that we gave you on naming ionic compounds, just the problems that have circles around them. Enjoy.